Hello, everybody. Woof! I have a lot to talk about today. Welcome to the House Medium. I'm Adelalavine, your House Medium. Okay, listen, a lot has happened to me, more like in my world, that I can't wait to share. And I wanted to say, welcome to all the new listeners that I have gotten from the Woo Woo podcast. But we have to go into the Medium Brew Cafe and talk about it. Okay. Listen, if you don't know, I was a guest on a podcast called the Woo Woo Podcast with Rachel Dratch, and Irene is a co-host. And I wanted to say thank you because I have gotten such a big response that I'm over here like, whoa, wow. I mean, I talk a lot for my work. I do podcasts, which is talking a lot. I'm at a loss for words. I have gotten such a positive response. People have DM'd me, they have emailed me, they have booked. And we're going to talk about that for all my people who've been following my work for some time. I'm going to let you all know some things have changed. But yeah, so it's been amazing. I went on this podcast and I was so excited and really nervous, and they were both super gracious. If you don't know this podcast, Rachel Dratch is a SNL alum, and both of them are comedic. And you know what I do is very intense and serious, and sometimes I get like nervous because I admire comedians. I do. It's like the hardest thing I think to do, I believe. And they were just really gracious. They went over, I thought they were like, are they going to like kind of make a little jokes? No, they were like really serious about it. They wanted to know all the things. They wanted to know how I got started. They helped promote my book, Seer, the origin story memoir. Yes, plug, plug, plug. Boom, boom, boom. Get it on Amazon.com, or you can also get it on BarnesandNoble.com. So yeah, they wanted to go over they went over my book with me. They went over how I got started, how I see things. I mean, they wanted to know all of it. And I did the podcast and I was like, okay, we'll see. And I got a really overwhelmingly positive response that I'm truly, truly in awe and humbled. I'm just trying to get back to people as quick as possible. If you don't know me, I'm one of those people that you DM, I get back. I don't like DMs. I will refer you to my email. So actually don't DM me because I'll refer you to my email. I guess I should say when you email me, I get back right away because I just want to know the person got taken care of and we're good to go. I've gotten many emails, and well, I'll get to that in a second. I want to talk about, people who have been getting mentorships for me and all this type of stuff because I made a couple of changes due to this. So it's been very positive, and I'm so appreciative. Thank you all for your wonderful comments. And I got a slew of new listeners to this podcast, and I'm like, wow, damn. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Irene. Thank you. I know they're not going to hear this, but I'm still saying thank you because I think they're pretty busy on their own. But I just wanted to say thank you so much, and thank you to all the new listeners. And if you don't know, let me give you a rundown of what this podcast is about. We are in the Medium Brew Cafe because I created my own coffee shop because I'm a coffee fiend. Now, I think it's so fitting because on the Woo Woo podcast, and if you haven't heard their podcast, go check it out. They normally have like their fellow actor friends and people like this who are in the spotlight, who are very well known. And then there was little of me that they had on to talk about what I do. So they don't normally have someone like me on. So I was just so honored. Did I say that? Did I say that enough? How honored and humble I am? Okay. Well, my podcast, The House Medium, it started off where people send in their stories. I read their stories, and I give a little take on what I think is going on in I use my sight to tell them what I see it was. So people have paranormal stories, like they hear something or they have an experience, and I tell you what I see it was. And that's how it started off. And now we've moved into more well known, famous cases of paranormal activity or any of the anything that fits under that umbrella, whether it's spirits, whether it's I don't do a ton of cryptic, but I do some, and aliens, and yes, aliens and things like this. We didn't get into aliens on the podcast. I didn't get into aliens, but I did wear my alien earrings. They saw them. Okay. So we get into all of that, and I use my site. And the podcast is meant to be a more grounded, down to earth, explain it to you in a real kind of way that's not very complicated type of vibe. I have a medium brew cafe, which is my virtual coffee shop that I sometimes, or I was, and I've kind of slacked on doing reviews on different coffees. And on the podcast of the Woo Woo Podcast, we talk about how I started, and it was in a Starbucks. Shocker. It was in a Starbucks. It was the fifth Starbucks to open up in Los Angeles, and me and my friends, well, my friends at the time, and still I know Jeff Hartman. You can go check him out. He doesn't really post. He's more of a watcher. He and I actually had a podcast called When Starbucks Was Fun for a very short time. And we did a little bit of intel of what it was like then versus now. And by the way, just for the record, all the things we said that needed to be fixed about Starbucks today, they are fixing. Just saying for the record. We said they needed to simplify drinks. They did it. We said they needed to change atmosphere. They did it. We said they needed to bring back condiments. They did it because I got rid of them. We said they need to bring back refills in a mug. They did it. And we said about uniforms, for those of you who think that they're discriminating against you because you're young and cute, you're wrong. We had to wear black shirts and tan pants. So anyway, on the Woo Woo Podcast, I get into all of that. So it was really fun and exciting. I just want to let people know, for those of you who are following me or you want to book with me, I have booked up quite a bit. I have some openings in August, but it's already opening. It's already booking up, and July is fully booked. So if you want to book with me, you can. I'm not like crazy booked where I'm like months and months ahead, but I am weeks to weeks ahead. Also, for those of you who are in my mentorship, when I work with someone in mentoring, I kind of talk to you first, see what your gifts are about, if you have them in a reading, and then I decide if it's something someone I think I can work with you, and they're private mentorships. But if you would like to learn about things, I have a book. Seer, the Origin Story is my memoir. But that's just learning about me. I also have Peering into the Narrow Room on Amazon, which is more of a instructional book. But I mostly post things on my Patreon. I do energy climates daily, and energy climates is giving you the energy of the day, what you should expect for the day, what I feel the vibe is. I think sometimes, rare occasion, like I think today, I end up doing the energy later. Did I post an energy climate? Now I'm like looking it up. Hello, did I like slack on my energy climate today? So I do that every day, and I post classes and other videos, like extra things to help teach. If you're in the Sacred Scholar, yep, I got to post energy climates, and I also do classes, and I also do meditations and things like this. That is all on my Patreon. If you want to support my work, that's a great way to support it, but you also get a slew of things. There's 2 tiers that you can choose from. And also, if you follow me on Instagram, I post things on there all the time, and on my TikTok. And I have old videos on my YouTube that is kind of, informational. That's it. Now we're going to leave the Medium Brew Cafe, and we're going to get into, speaking of, have some people call in. I don't know if I'm going to, let me see. Let me look at I have some people who like sent me and not called in. One of them's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one. Let me put some like cool little background music. We need a little background music. I like this one when it's cool, just like chill vibes. We're going to do this one. And then we're going to get into our story of the day, which our story is about Travis. Okay. You ever saw the movie Fire in the Sky? I did. And it screwed with my mind. I think it's Travis Walton. And we're going to get into this is an alien story. Do I feel it was real? There's a lot of controversy around the story. Lots of people believed him, a lot of momentum. They even, he wrote a book about it and they turned that into a movie. So there's been so much onto this story, but we're going to get into what I feel like I might have saw, what I see about it. I'm also going to get into how it screwed with my head quite a bit when I saw that movie. But before that, we're gonna do kind of like what I call reader's room. This isn't a reader's room episode. I'm kind of starting to incorporate it into regular episodes when people like, because sometimes people have updates and it's not really a reader's room. So I'm going to read a new story from a new, not a new listener, but she's like, hasn't wrote in, I don't think, before. So it says, Hi, Adela. I love your podcast. Listening to you has reshaped my views on spirits and the afterlife for the better. I know you're looking for stories, but didn't have one to share until last night. It's relatively short, and I'm not sure if it's anything, but thought I'd send it for future readers' room episode. Thank you. Last night I was awake in the early morning hours, tossing and turning, trying to get back to sleep. All of a sudden, there seemed to be heavy feeling in the room. I sensed there was someone walking around our bed, like the presence of feet on the carpet. Ooh, that's always fun. I listened closer to see if my husband was up. He was snoring, so I knew he was asleep still, and both our dogs were locked in the crates. I could hear our 2-year old's sleepy breathing over the baby's monitor. Just then, I heard a voice mumble something right near my face, and I startled. A few seconds later, my son screamed out like he had just awoken from a bad nightmare, and immediately the tension in the room broke, and I went to his room to comfort him. We lived in our home for 8 years, and I've never felt any presence, just warm, good energy. Before we bought the house, it belonged to a single family who passed it down through 3 generations. The family left up rosaries in the closets and a cross in the basement with a protective saying. Despite not being particularly religious, we left all these items in the house, and I felt it added to the good energy. Side note, the seller's family name was the same as my maternal grandmother's maiden name. Wow, that's cool. And though it's common last name, I took it as a sign the house was meant to be ours. Was that just a hallucination on my part and a coincidence that my son cried out the same time as my experience? Was there a spirit trying to let me know that my kiddo was having a rough night, or perhaps my own premonition? Thoughts in advance. Wait, not thoughts in advance. Thank you in advance for your thoughts. I'm not 100% sure if I already read this one because usually I delete emails if I did. And if I did, I apologize for rereading it again, but I don't think I did because I was reading it and I was going, did I already read this? But I don't think so. Here's my feeling. It is not a coincidence at all. Like, I cannot see this being a coincidence. Matter of fact, I feel like you both were tuned in, your son and you. I think you were tuned in together. And the fact that this last name thing was going on, this is very much how signs work. My feeling is that the heavy feeling is not negative. I actually see kind of like a man immediately when I was reading it, an older man kind of trying on your father's side, trying to tell you this is like a cool thing, the things are going well. Um, I didn't see this as a negative. I really love that your son kind of had the same experience at the same time. kids are so good at being telepathic in that kind of way, especially to the moms, because they're tuned into you. So I really feel like you guys were kind of both having that moment together. Yeah, because I just re-looking at, and before we bought the house, it belonged to a single family, passed it down in 3 generations. So it's not their family, it's your family. That's what I keep seeing. I kept seeing a man and hearing saying that he's on your father's side. And I feel like what you people got to realize is that people get really scared. They think, "Oh, I hear a voice, or I hear footsteps," and they think this is negative. It's not negative. It's just that we're scared of these things because we're just not used to these things. So the footsteps and the voices kind of like freak you out and make you nervous, but there's nothing negative that is in play. Does that make sense? It is startling to hear, like, to feel something and to hear something kind of whispering at you. But I feel like your son screamed out probably because it might have startled him as well. And sometimes kids just pick up on these things. So I wouldn't look at this as a negative at all. Matter of fact, I really love it as somebody trying to connect with you and maybe even tell you that this place is a good place for you to be at. Um, so it just kind of feel like you were scared, and so your son telepathically tuned into you and he got scared, if that makes sense. So thanks for sending that in. Did I say the name? It was, I think, Brittany. Thank you, Brittany, for sending it in. And if I read it twice, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. Okay, let's get to our main story. We're going to switch a little vibes up and we're going to get to the main story. I have always been fascinated with the Travis Walton story. I have been fascinated with the Travis Walton story. If you haven't seen the movie Fire in the Sky, you should absolutely go see the movie Fire in the Sky. Fire in the Sky is a movie that's about a group of guys who are loggers, and so they're kind of in a rural area, in a forest-like area, and they go out when I think they're coming back from a day and they see something bright. At least I'm going to give you the movie version and then I'll break down some of the things the people talk about. I mean, not the people, but like their version. They see this light shining down, they stop, they go, and all of a sudden, Travis, after that, disappears for several days. And he comes back from that and claims he was abducted by aliens. The thing about this story, if you see the movie, and I'm not going to give all away, it is an old movie. So just know that the effects and things might be very old. But the reason why it kind of stuck with me, there's one scene that made me feel like maybe someone who wrote it, because apparently the movie is very exaggerative. Like Travis even says, hey, they kind of like the producers kind of pressured me to do a little bit of smoke and mirrors, type of thing, like add a little more fun and drama to his story, because his story, I guess, was too boring. But there is a scene when they're in the spaceship and he's in these enclosed. I can't explain it, but it's kind of like it kind of looks like a beehive. And it's really creepy. And I swear to God, I feel like I've seen something like that. That's all I'm going to say. Now, for those of you who are new to me, I don't just talk about spirits. I don't just talk about the other side. I don't just talk about, paranormal like activity in that way. I talk about aliens too, because I have had some clear experiences that are interdimensional. And if you go back to episodes that I've done, I have shared my experiences. So I won't repeat it here. I'll repeat maybe one or two, maybe one, not like the whole experience, but I will say that my first experience of aliens, which I talk about more on, I actually talk about it a lot. If you go to the podcast, A Funny Feeling with Marcy and Betsy, which led me to the Woo Woo podcast, I talk all about my experience. So if you want to hear a good story, go there or go to one of my episodes as well. And I've had interdimensional, not so much spaceship type of experiences, only one spaceship type of experience. But I can tell you that the abduction idea that that traditionally people talk about, I see very differently, and we'll get to that in a minute. So let's get to Travis's story. Okay, shall we? Okay, so Travis Walton, this is the believer side. So I'm going to show you the believer side, the skeptic side, and then Adela side. Maybe we should call it something. The believer, skeptic, Adela. Okay. So he was a 22-year-old logger he was in Snowflake, Arizona. So you can't call him a snowflake. Can't tell him. It just made me think of like how people call like people snowflakes, which I hate that term. Anyway, he disappeared November 5th, 1975 for about 5 days and 6 hours. Whoa. Okay. So what he says happened is that he saw, like I told you, there was a crew. He saw a bright light in a bright UFO in the forest. In the movie, they show him like walk up to the light, look up, and then he's just like slowly getting lifted. It's like classic UFO, just like lifting him up into the spaceship. That's what they show in the movie, to be clear. He woke up in a craft with small beings watching him. Now, when he does share that the beings were the traditional alien gray type beings, not bling. Maybe they were wearing bling. I don't know. But beings, and that's what they show in the movie as well. So that's consistent. Okay. But what was different about this, and here's the difference about Travis Walton and Fire in the Sky, which is, by the way, a great title. It's a really good, it is a killer title. Chef kiss to the title. But what's different about him is that he fought them off. So it says that he panicked, fought them off, and was later subdued by a taller human-like beings. Now I'm going to go down when I go through my Adela version of what I feel. I'll go down what I call my check boxes of what I feel like. This checks a box of what I've seen. This checks a box of what is consistently true when it comes to paranormal activity and especially aliens. So support for his story. So here's a support for his story. Like, this is what kind of supports his story to be legitimate. Multiple co-workers saw the beam in the craft and all passed polygraphs. So multiple co-workers saw this beam, saw the craft, and they all passed polygraphs. So that's a point one. Travis himself passed a polygraph. That's point two. He told a consistent story. So whenever you're looking if people are faking their stories, if it's always changing, it's a red flag that they might be lying. But Travis has always consistently told the same story. His stories inspired the 1993 movie Fire in the Sky. Though the abduction scenes are dramatized. You have to realize, like in Hollywood, if you're just like going, like I remote view, and it's very similar to what Stranger Things is based off of, when she's like walking around and seeing what's there. But if you saw me remote viewing, you'd be like, this is really boring. Like if they depicted how I'm really remote viewing, I'm just sitting there staring off into the right side of me, staring off into a space. And that's all you would see. So that's really boring. So you have to like do things so it makes sense. Okay, ready for the skeptical side? Here's the skeptical side. What skeptics point out is that there's no physical evidence. This is always the skeptical side, to be fair. Always the skeptical side, which is part of the problem when it comes to paranormal phenomenon, is that it has to be physical. And what people got to understand is that when it comes to paranormal stuff, it's not just what you see and hear and feel. It's also a sense. It's also a sixth sense that's happening. That's why people will say things like, I felt like I was talking telepathic. I don't know why I knew, but I knew. Not everything is tangible. And by the way, paranormal type of beings, whether they're going to be spirits or aliens, do not like being treated like clowns and entertainment. They don't like being treated like you prove yourself and show me you exist. They don't. Okay. Polygraph tests are not scientifically reliable. So this is a thing. We're all very into polygraphs. However, they're not scientifically they're kind of, pseudoscience basically. So just because they passed them doesn't necessarily legitimize them. That's a very big thing. And Philip Klass, a UFO skeptic, suggests the story was a hoax to get out of logging contract. I mean, come on, man. What? He made up this whole UFO thing to get out of a logging. I'm skeptical of that answer. That's a lot to go through just to not do a logging contract. I don't know about that. Klass also claimed that Walton failed a polygraph later when asked directly if he made it up. Now, here's the thing. This is just me playing the devil's advocate, and I haven't given you my full synopsis of what I see. Playing the devil's advocate, if he knows that the story, the movie was exaggerated, or if he knew like somebody in the crew made up something, you can fail the polygraph because you're like, well, it's not made up, but there are parts in my book that people tend to do in books and movies, exaggerate things to make it more fun, to make it more palatable for people. So to be fair, that could be it. One of the witnesses, Mike Rogers, was later accused of possibly helping stage. Now, I've seen one of the guys, and I think it could be him, has later recently come out saying it's been all made up, and he's confessed. But here's the problem with groups. When one guy's getting very popular, one guy's getting very famous, people could get jealous. But I haven't given my full synopsis. Alternative explanations include hallucination, light tower, misidentification of planned disappearance. Okay, so they're saying that it could be a hallucination, a light tower. I don't know. Everybody hallucinate. I know people believe in group hallucinations, but I don't know. What the movie changed, Walton never claimed torture or grotesque medical procedures. Those scenes were Hollywood additions. Okay, so let's go over it. So here's a group of guys. They're walking, and they see a spaceship. And they're looking at the spaceship, and they're staring at the light in the sky. And Walton disappears. Okay. He later goes on and he does some polygraph tests.
They're blowing smoke up my rear end so bad, I'm sending off smoke signals.
Like, is he lying? Is he blowing smoke? Is he blowing
They're blowing
smoke
smoke up my
off
rear
of
end
people?
so bad, I'm sending off smoke signals.
Or is he telling the truth? Okay. Then he meets some aliens. He meets some aliens that are like, kind of surrounding him. Some kind of what we call grays. Ooh, the gray aliens talking alien language to him. Talking to him. Yeah. Could it be? I mean, it is consistent. The alien grays are very consistent to what they're saying. Or is he just is this all kind of made up? But then he gets pissed because they start messing with him and he fights them off. Right?
You have to be the most dumbest person I've ever had the misfortune to meet.
And maybe they were just rude to him. Maybe they just were rude to him and he was like, I'm going to fight them off. Okay.
Person
So,
ever had the misfortune
Yes. God, this is how I feel like they think of us. So he fights them off, and then he comes back 5 days and 6 hours later. So the bottom line is Trav and Walton truly went missing for 5 days and sincerely believes his experience. Skeptics believe the whole thing was either a hoax or misunderstanding fueled by need for attention. Okay, what do I feel? I have even had this discussion in my own house with my own hub, and he had looked into this case himself too, and he said that I guess it turned out that Travis kind of got known for like doing a little something, a little green, he's been gardening. I've learned that term from the TikTokers. He's doing a little gardening, doing a little drinking, doing a little stuff that might have went on a binger. That's kind of part of what the skeptics I have said as well. But here's the thing, my experience with those beings, I feel like something really happened. This is my feeling. When I saw the medical part, which they talk about, they talk about, he talks about saying that they did exaggerate the medical part. When I originally saw the medical part, I was like, not only blown away and totally freaked out, but I also felt like it was exaggerated even then. And when I originally saw this was in 1993, I myself was around the same age this happened to this guy. Well, when it happened to him in the 60s, but I was around 22, 23, and I was still very new to these abilities. I kind of had my first alien encounter, which I'll share at the end here. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But I also just didn't have a strong vibe that these type of beings would do something like this. So it matches my gut feeling that the medical thing, I was like, yeah, that doesn't match. And then sure enough, he says that was exaggerated. I do believe something happened to him, and I do believe what happened is that because it was so much momentum, so much interest, it kind of pushed everyone to kind of make it more than to make a book. I don't feel he made up the whole thing. I do believe that they did see something. I do believe something happened. Here's the thing that I've learned about aliens and abduction. What they actually have told me when I have my experiences, and mine have been telepathic, is that in the 60s and in the 70s and in the 50s, they did abduct people. And they told me they abducted people, or they have told me they abducted people, kind of like we take animals. And they always expressed to me, we didn't really know it scared you. We didn't really know it freaked you out. We were doing it, not realizing you were so aware. In other words, they saw us like this guy's talking right here.
You have to be.
What, this guy? Sorry, this guy's talking. If you hear this guy.
You have to be the most dumbest person I've ever had the misfortune.
That's how they see us. They thought that we weren't very aware, just like we have said for years, and we assumed about animals that they're not very aware, they're not very smart, they're not self-aware. That's how they saw us as well. So when they abducted us, originally they didn't see as abduction, they saw it as studying, and they're like, oh wow, this is really screwing with them. They're really getting scared. So they started to change the way they would handle us, just like we start to get more self-aware or more aware and more educated about animals, and we've changed the way we've been more humane to them. So now what they do is kind of put you in a trance and make you feel like you're somewhere, kind of like putting on a VR set, and it makes you give the illusion you're somewhere else, but you never really go anywhere. So it's putting it into your mind because it's telepathic. I believe that's what was happening with him? No, I do believe they took him somewhere because it matches what they told me. There are medical aliens that kind of want to study and see you. I feel like something did happen to him where they might have done something like that, but nothing like to the extent that they did at all in the movie, not at all. Because here's the thing, everyone, they don't need sharp needles. They don't need stuff. Even back in the 60s, their technology was more advanced than what our technology is today. So it doesn't match what they're capable of doing. They don't need to poke and prod you. It just doesn't match. I feel like anything that they would do to us would be scary because we're looking at a being we're not familiar with, and we just get scared. I just want to remind people it's very similar to children. We think children are so funny and cute when they get scared of a puppet. We think children get so funny or cute if they get even scared of an animal. I remember, I have a kiddo and I've seen him when he was little get scared of things that were so logical to me and I understood it. Bottom line is, we get scared of things we don't know how it works. We don't understand how it works. And so so I believe, like, kids get scared of things they don't know how it works, and so do we. So no, I don't feel like it has to have all those things happening in order to be afraid. And I do believe that something happened to him, but I do feel like it would be fair for him and everyone to say, hey, maybe I don't remember a lot of it. And I do feel like he has. And yes, the movie exaggerated and maybe even exaggerated other parts. But the problem is, I feel like I get a vibe from him that he's telling the truth. I don't know if I get a vibe that the others are telling the truth, because I feel like they don't really know. You know what I mean? So I feel like they witnessed what they saw, but they're not 100% sure because it didn't happen to them. They didn't go up. I don't believe he lifted up. I don't believe that they saw him lift into the air. I just don't have a feeling of it. I feel like what happened, because this is how those beings work, is that the light comes down, all of a sudden he's there, and then he's not there. And they can make them not remember. And that's what I feel happened. I feel like they don't remember, so they're just kind of filling in the gaps so that they can give the people what they want. You got to remember that these types of beings operate in a more non-dramatic way. So my first experience that I ever had, that I'll explain and I'll leave you on this, is when I was starting to really open up. And by the way, this story and many of them like this will be in my, I think I wrote it in my memoir, Seer, the Origin Story. I was going to say it'll be in my next book. No, but I wrote about this story in my memoir. So you can read it there and I get into a little more detail. But I basically was somewhere else, sitting in, all of a sudden one night, sitting in this room at a table, and I saw this being. And I don't want to give it all away because I'm trying to get you to read about it in my memoir. But let's just say I could tell it was talking to me, and there was no lips, no mouth, no nothing moving. And it changed my whole trajectory of what I thought about aliens, because I didn't look for this. It wasn't something I was looking for. I wasn't trying to pine this. I really was just experimenting and realizing my gifts as a medium. And because they talk telepathically, you kind of go onto a Wi-Fi like communication with them, and they hear you and you hear them and you connect. So I feel like that's what happened with me. They started to see I was in that realm, and they were like, we're going to teach her some stuff. And it changed the course of things, of how I believed of aliens. The information I got from them was very quick, but I can tell you that I really thought I went somewhere. And I think I might have actually not gone somewhere, because this was in the 90s when this happened to me. And this was a lot of years later. And so they had a lot more study to be able to tell, you know what, we don't have to take anyone anywhere. We can just make them think they're somewhere. And that's what I feel happened, because I definitely thought I went somewhere. I even woke up my boyfriend at the time, asking him, did he notice if I disappeared or not? So, with that said, here is my verdict. I need a gavel for next time. I'll just do my little wand. Here is my verdict. My verdict for this story is, I believe them. I believe something happened. I believe that they definitely kind of took advantage of his story, exaggerated, profited on it. I do believe that the people who saw it, this is what I feel happened. They saw the light, they saw the ship, and they don't remember anything afterwards either, because I feel that things were blocked out for them, and next thing you know, they were somewhere else. It's very easy to do that. And I believe the same thing happened with him. I feel like he saw some things. He saw these alien grays. Here's my cat. She wants to be in the podcast. Hello. She's an alien too. And they were like, and then I think that's probably this the extent of it. I don't feel like he really remembered much after that, and they just kind of filled in what they thought happened. And he says it wasn't like medical experiments. I think people got to understand they don't need to do that. They have kind of enough ability to kind of use things that can kind of see. And I'll leave you on a positive tip. The one thing I have learned from those beings, they are looking to help us with our health. Meaning, one of the main things I always hear from them is that we are so behind in our medical abilities that their goal is to get us more advanced medically. So when we see AI coming out, robots coming out, all this type of things, it is to advance us in our health, because they said if we don't, this is what they've told me, if we don't learn about health, if we don't learn how to advance our health care, then there really is no point, because we won't be able to live longer to advance as beings ourselves, to fix ourselves, to fix the planet, to come together as humans. So they're very, very big into healthcare. So it doesn't make sense that they would like be abusive and terrible. Like, I totally believe him that he says, yeah, that never happened. But I do believe that they would like to look at us and see how our health is what we're using. Do we have, do we have like things implanted into our bodies, like, new hips, new knees. And I know that they think these types of things are very barbaric. And so I do feel like their intention, at least the ones that I call the doctors, and I've seen the tall ones he's talking about that look kind of humanish. I have seen those. I've seen blue ones, and I might have seen like a gray once, but not really. They're not the ones I tend to see the most. And they're interdimensional beings, which means they don't need a spaceship at all. But spaceships are fun. Are they fun? Anyway, what do you feel? What do you believe in? What are your experiences? If you've had any of these type of experience, feel free to write into the house medium at Gmail. And if I feel that it fits and it's a strong enough story, I might invite you on, or I just may read it. Thank you all so much. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at the House Medium, Adelalavine at the House Medium. If you want to book a reading with me, you go to adelalavine at Gmail. If you have questions about my mentorship, please email me first before booking. And here's Jem. She says hello and goodbye. Oops, sorry. She dropped a little bit onto the floor. And thank you so much for joining. And thank you to you that are new to have joined my podcast, and all of you who have joined my Instagram from the woo woo. I so appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the work that I do and this podcast. Follow yourself, follow no one, listen to your voice, and I'll see you soon.